just smelled something coming off of me. That's really creepy. Like, is that how? Is it the deodorant? Is that what it is? Okay.
A gamey quality.
Yeah, right.
I think it's time we can call the meeting to order, and let's do a roll call, Carla, and I think we have a quorum. Or, sorry, Tom,
Okay,
apologies.
good evening. Katrina Kindle, Peggy Patton,
Here.
Ashley Withers, Tony
Here.
Allegretti.
Present. I think we have a quorum. We got 3 of 4. There are 3 vacancies on the board. We'd love to have other people on the board. Let's move to Agenda B. This is, it's approval of the minutes from our previous meeting, which are from Wednesday, May 29th of 2024. Has everyone had a chance to review those? Okay, can I get a motion to approve the meeting, or the agenda, excuse me?
I moved to.
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm stepping out of order. We need to move to approve the agenda. Is there anything that anyone wants to add to the agenda this evening?
Nope.
I just assumed that the announcements meant / board input and communications. That was always sort of a standing item, and I thought maybe you just said announcements, but that was also a time in case the board wanted to. There was always board input or board communication sometimes, it would say. If board members wanted to say, oh, I attended this tabling event,
Oh,
or I went to this training, it was sort of.
Yes, I
Yes.
was trying to keep with the city's newest format, so hopefully between unfinished business, new business, and announcements, that most of those will merge.
We'll all be part of that. That's what I was hoping was the case.
Thank you.
So,
Katrina will not be here. She just texted me back.
so yes, I
Thank you.
move approval of the agenda.
Do we have a second?
Second. I guess there's limited options on who can
Yeah.
do that.
I think we can take this vote by affirmation. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, the agenda is approved. Let's move to C, approval of the minutes. This is from the May 29th meeting. I believe we all have copies in front of us. Is there any motion to approve or to amend?
I will move to approve the minutes from May 29th.
I'll second that.
Okay, I think we can do this by affirmation. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, motion carries. The minutes for May 29th are approved. We'll move on.
I just want to say thank you for taking detailed notes on that, Tom. I think you're the one that does that. I thought there
Yeah,
was
this
a lot of
is-
good detail because it was a pretty full discussion meeting. So thank you for capturing that.
Absolutely.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Tom. Yeah, no, these are some of the finest minutes I've seen. They're good. Okay, let's move to public input. We normally have, well, we only have one this meeting. Normally we have 2, I think, but I guess that was a Ricardo thing, so. My, how things have changed. I don't know if we have any public input. We do have members in the audience. If you would like to make a statement, we had this problem last time. It doesn't look like that's the case, so I don't believe we have any public input for this meeting. We'll move then to E, which is unfinished business. I guess we can note, the mayor appointed me to be the chair of the board. I accepted that between the previous meeting and this meeting that was in August. So just so that's made aware, I don't think there were any other members running that wanted to be the chair.
I think she's going to formally announce that.
Oh, is it gonna be for, okay. Well, just,
I was calling you interim until.
oh, am I, okay, I guess it's not official
She's going
then.
to officially announce it.
Okay.
So by next meeting, we should have that.
Gotcha. Okay.
We thank you for that, Tony.
Well, you're welcome. So yeah, okay, interim for now. There's there's some unfinished business regarding previous hearings we've had. I don't know if that's.
Yours was off too.
How's that? Is that better? Okay, yeah. Yeah, the unfinished business I think we're discussing was there's a number of notes that need to be sent to the chief regarding previous appeals that I'm doing. I don't know if there were any other major things that were unfinished. I mean, there's reviews of,
I'll talk about it in my
okay.
report.
Carla, thank you for doing that. All right, so we'll get to that in G. I don't know if there's any other unfinished business then that we need to discuss presently. And I guess we can wait about any pending appeals if there are any to the report. Okay, then let's move then to F, which is new business. I believe we have the city attorney here, and maybe a member of the staff. But they're here to present on the,
It's the labor relations manager.
oh, okay, I'm sorry.
Good evening.
Might be a short interim. Sorry, yeah, if we could both introduce yourselves just for the record, and then I believe your presentation is on a complaint that was submitted.
You ask about the social policy, the social media policy.
Oh, yes, I did, yeah, okay. That's what we're discussing. Sorry,
All
go
right.
ahead.
I just want to say good evening and hello. I one of you I've met, and the other two I have not. So I'm the newish city attorney. Pleasure to meet you. And Michelle and I are here tonight to, at the request of the mayor, to address an issue that arose. I think it was a couple weeks ago. A request for. I think it was for a member of the police department to be present to discuss the social media policy and some questions that may have been related to the incident that occurred concerning a public communication from a member of the department a few weeks ago. And so I don't know if you've had an opportunity to take a look at your emails. I did send you a message this afternoon linking Chief Boone's comments about that incident in the city council meeting. Which would have happened last Monday, I believe it was. And then also providing a copy of the department's social media policy from the departmental policy book. It's about a 2-page document. And so I wanted to make you aware of that in case you hadn't had an opportunity to take a look at it. Michelle, did you have any comments or anything to add?
Did you just send that this afternoon? 'Cause
Yes,
I
it
did
was.
that-
It was just this afternoon.
Like late afternoon? Because I have to say as of like 3 o'clock.
PM.
Midday,
Well,
I
okay.
think it was. Yeah.
All right.
And Matt, this policy it's not new as far as in the last month or so. Has it been updated at all since
Not,
this incident, or is
not
it
to
being
my
reviewed?
knowledge.
Is it being reviewed?
It is, pardon me, I'm Michelle Brooks. I'm the Labor and Employee Relations Manager. Prior to being over in our HR department, I was an assistant city attorney over in our legal division.
Okay.
And in that capacity, I did have some work with the CPRB, but it's been a minute. So it's nice to
Okay.
meet you all. Matt committed to good evening. I'm trying to decide if it's good afternoon still, but regardless, thanks
true.
for having. That said, I know the inquiry came in prior to Chief Boone and Deputy Chief Searles appearing at last Monday's meeting. And at that meeting, they addressed some of the concerns that obviously are very well taken, and they gave a brief overview of the work that had been done in the department and the conclusions the department had made at that time. So with apologies for us not getting that to you sooner, we're hoping that can answer some of your questions and concerns about this. The social media policy is not new. Deputy Chief Searles does speak to that in the presentation. I will say, there may be changes to it as part of an overall city policy review that we're doing comprehensively with a provider named Lexapool. So it's possible something will be coming in that, but this is the policy that has been in place and was controlling at the time of the events a couple weeks ago.
Can you tell us, I mean, I know Urbana Police has a Facebook presence. Are there other portals that they use or other social media sites that they use?
With apologies, I cannot. I don't think so. And again, I could be wrong, but I'm aware that like our police department, our public works, the city as a whole, we have Facebook. I am not aware of any presence we have on like Instagram or any other social media.
Okay. So is there a separate policy then for emails that may get sent out or forwarded around? I've seen some of those on, does the city police, can you sign up for an email alert from them? Or is that just being forwarded from other items? Because I've seen like copies of press releases attached to emails. I think it's usually through like an alder person that would send that out. Is that just, I don't know if I'm making sense. Is there like a listserv you can sign up for from the police that they can send things out, or is that being forwarded to others?
I believe I submitted everyone's name so that the entire board would be able to receive those press releases and any announcement that went out for the city. So that's how you're getting those. I submitted everyone to
Okay.
receive those. That was a request, I believe, from the previous chair.
Okay. But that's just because we're on the board, not, and just a resident can't sign up for that or get those?
I'm not sure about that answer.
Okay. Oh, okay. All right. Thanks, Carla. So I know regarding the incident that we were discussing, that was it an interim deputy chief that was in charge of the posting? Is that? Yeah.
Thank you. So I will say at this point, with all respect and deference and appreciation for the concerns the board has about this, I'm a little concerned about getting into a situation where we're discussing with you an investigation into the performance of an employee. So I believe under the ordinance, the board has every right to speak amongst themselves and in meetings about their thoughts and feelings on this. However, I get concerned if we look to a couple provisions that, first of all, we'd be discussing some information related to a personnel and performance of an employee. So when I look at 1925B and 1925A, I'm a little bit concerned we're going out of the parameters of what this board is charged with in terms of responsibilities, and I don't want to put the board in a position of us discussing in an open session something that would normally be discussed in a closed session and something that isn't related to a pending specific complaint. But I will say that I believe that Chief Boone's statements will answer some of those questions for you.
Okay. I mean, there isn't a pending complaint regarding this. I don't think anyone involved ever filed a complaint, and there hasn't been an appeal. Right, not that I'm aware of. But under the ordinance, we're trying to, one of the purposes of the board is to provide a way to improve police community interactions. Social media is one of those ways that we do that. I'm not trying to investigate any one officer individually. I guess my question was more directed towards, like, do we know, is it controlled by one person, or can you talk us through how the police decide to post something on their Facebook account?
I think Deputy Chief Searles speaks to that, and I think the policy speaks to that as well. And I will indicate that you did have a question, and it was addressed in open session, so it was Deputy Chief Bain, Interim Deputy Chief Bain, that was responsible for that post. But there are well, I don't want to paraphrase Deputy Chief Searles, but he does talk through that in that meeting last Monday.
Okay, so you're talking about the city council.
Yeah.
So is there a scheduled timeline for the review of the policy? Is that being discussed, or?
Well, we are in the midst of Lexipol policy review, and they are myriad and voluminous and dense, not just this particular one, so we are working our way through those. I do believe that at the end of the presentation last Monday, Chief Searle spoke a little bit to some measures the department is going to be taking in response to some of the practical problems that presented themselves in this last situation to try and address those.
Is there anything else you can share with us, I guess?
Would you be comfortable with, after you've viewed the video, if you have particular questions, if you want to send them to the city attorney or myself, we'll do our best to see what we can answer for you?
Sure, I haven't had an opportunity to watch the meeting.
I wish we'd have had more time, because I feel like any comments I make in regarding our questions are gonna feel redundant. So I think, as I'm sure the police department and Chief Boone know, like, this community has some trust issues with our police department, and making snarky comments in regards to victims of crimes on Facebook, not the best way to kind of move forward in that direction. So hopefully, I'm sure that's been addressed in his statements. So I would like time to be able to kind of
I think,
review that before commenting or questioning any further.
yeah, I think at the time that we put in a request to have someone come in, there wasn't any discussion at the council level, or I don't think any action was taken even by internally by the police either. So I guess a lot has happened since that occurred.
At the time of the request, it was an active investigation
Yeah.
case, and so no one could speak about it
Right.
at that time.
Then I guess maybe the best thing to do would be to review it ourselves, and then if we had other questions, if we can't get them answered in email, maybe we can have you come back if there's some other things we have discussion. But we'd also invite you back to discuss the new policy once it's done. I don't know how long that will take, but we'd be happy to have you back to discuss that and field questions about, what changes have been made, how you think it'll improve, if there's any deficiencies, that kind of thing. That would be great.
Okay, and I do need to clarify, I'm not certain that new policies will be in place pursuant to that. It may be that it's reviewed and there's a determination that it's adequate as it is, but generally, the policies are being reviewed and changes are being made to some city policies. Again, I will say the city attorney thought today, and I think very appropriately, oh, wait, maybe we should make sure they've had a chance to see that. It was a great idea. I'm sorry it didn't occur to us sooner to get that to you, so you have that information in advance of this meeting. And I appreciate you having us here and very much understand, I think, your concern and investment in this. So I hope you understand that that is not, any attempt to be dismissive of your concerns or try to say that you shouldn't be, addressing this.
Yeah, certainly, and I apologize that the timing was such a quick turnaround. Speaking for myself, I was out of the office the end of last week, and then yesterday and on Monday. So this is kind of my Monday, and it's been kind of a quick turnaround since we were asked to attend, but we weren't sure. We didn't want to assume that everybody had watched the meeting and seen the comments. And I wanted to make sure you had them directly, and the same with the policy. It's on the city's website, but it's buried in 200 pages of policy, so I wanted to call it out and put it in front of you. So certainly happy to address any questions as your attorney. Anything, legal in nature, any parameters concerning the board's role, anything like that, certainly is in my wheelhouse, and I'm happy to either talk over the phone, or if you want to send me an email, we can discuss it that way. So,
Yeah, I think at this point, just given the framing of what's happened in the prior presentations, I think we need to take some time to review, and then we can submit questions and potentially have you back to discuss them if we need to.
Carla can either get you our email addresses if you don't already have them, or she can forward things to me and I'll respond.
Right.
I had assumed that Ms. Brooks and Mr. Rochely were coming to talk about the appeal that you provided us with a background on. I mean, clearly you two didn't think that, but, since that was sent to us, last week, and it was from the two of you, and the agenda item just said a presentation on that. That's what I assumed it was on, but then,
I also thought that was what we were going to discuss too, because
Yeah.
the Facebook thing, I thought was going to be someone from the department.
right,
So I think I crossed my own wires too.
yeah.
I don't know if we can really discuss that because it's not on the agenda.
Well, unless everyone thought that's what that agenda item meant. I don't, Ashley, is that what you interpreted it to mean? I mean, it just says staff presentation, city attorney and labor relations manager. And like I said, that was the thing that we were most working on, that was pretty detailed.
So,
Well, that was in reference to what was requested to be heard. And we didn't put the social media policy term in there because it was the city attorney and the manager, they were going to speak about that. And so I didn't put it in the title
Okay,
because that had been something that had been requested. And Tony and I hadn't had an opportunity to discuss it prior to the meeting because I myself was gone.
sure.
I guess with that being said, I hate this microphone. Obviously, we can't probably discuss that today because it's not on our agenda, but I
Right.
don't know if that's
It's
something
so-
we need to put on November's agenda, or is it a pressing enough issue that we need to have a meeting before that?
So I would just say this about discussion today. So long as there's no final action or really any substantive discussion about the complaint, I can either address, with you one way, kind of the concise version of my view of it from the standpoint of the law and what my memo represents and what was intended to do. Anything that ventures into the substance of the complaint, that's business we'd have to do, schedule on the agenda and through a process that would resemble what you normally would do. So I would just say this with regard to the materials I sent. I want to clarify that's a memo providing the legal analysis and your attorney's legal opinion on this particular case. It is not a final ruling on the appeal, per se. That's not my role. But me kind of telling you as clearly as I can why I don't think this particular complaint is properly in front of the board, why it's not in the board's jurisdiction, and also why, essentially there is, on any allegations or of the substance that's in it, why there's no real legal basis for any of those claims either. But that stuff is not really what determines the outcome here. It's more the process and the procedural issue of jurisdiction. And so my memo is really intended to be, here's your guidance. This is an unusual situation. Here's how we see it from a legal standpoint. I know that there has been other correspondence from the complainant and who may have perceived that memorandum as sort of from an opposing party, but I don't represent an opposing party. We are not in opposition in this case. That was simply my opinion advising my client on the board here.
So Matt, maybe I can ask you, I read your memo. There's issues that you describe in it. Is it the position, your opinion that this complaint should have never been filed? Because the ordinance doesn't really give a good exit ramp for complaints that don't fall under our purview, but the complaint, as the ordinance is defined, is just misconduct lodged against a sworn officer, and that's could be construed pretty broadly. So I'm asking you, what is your opinion about even the board even hearing an appeal? Do we even get there? Because I think that's
Yeah.
a question that I have.
without getting into the substance of whether it should have been filed or not, because I really think that comes down to you have to get into some of the facts of what was alleged.
Sure.
And so I don't want to open that can of worms here, but purely from a legal procedural standpoint, no. I mean, I think that's the takeaway from that I was trying to give you in so many words in the memo was I don't think this is something that the board can do anything with and should, given its charge in the ordinance. It's not something that the board can act on. And I'm talking about the complaint itself, the original complaint, what it alleged, the basis of that allegation, and the fact that the board not only doesn't have jurisdiction over the subject matter, it's precluded but under state law from, redressing a claim under that particular law that was cited. And I think it couldn't be clearer from that standpoint. It's just not in our domain.
If I can jump off of that, so back in the day, when someone named Todd Rent was here, he and I worked together to try and expand the section on complaints because we were encountering scenarios where it just wasn't viable to conduct investigations. And some of these were very, very old complaints against police officers who had retired. And I guess what I would liken this to is if we got a complaint that clearly laid out in that section wasn't one that the CPRB could entertain. And so I was trying to think, okay, what happens in that scenario? And in that scenario, trying to be careful to make sure that we're not being seen as giving legal advice to any party, or any complainant. In other areas of our code of ordinances, that would be something that might be ripe for an administrative review proceeding. So that, I think, is kind of how I was analogizing this, right? Like, this is kind of something that we don't believe is appropriately before the board, and that would perhaps be a mechanism that in other administrative hearings that happen under other ordinances would be the proper avenue.
Right, I guess that's kind of what I'm getting at is that, I'm not sure if there's any action that the board should really be taking, because if I understand that a appeal was made on behalf of the complainant, but if the city's opinion is that this complaint shouldn't have been filed, that's fine. I don't know if the board has anywhere to go or should take any action. I think that may be an area where the complainant might take issue with it, because there isn't anything explicitly stating at any time, city council can come in and remove a complaint because it doesn't fit the definition. So it's more of and it seems like this has already been identified as a problem, that complaint isn't defined very well, despite the city attorney's well-written memo explaining why this type of the substance of the complaint definitely doesn't fit. It's at the city level, it's not written out very well, but so that's kind of what I was getting at. Is there an opinion as to, do we even do anything with this complaint at this point? And if this isn't, if this needs to be discussed in executive session, we can do that. It doesn't have to be today, but that's more, I'm trying to figure out, where do we go from here?
Yeah, and Michelle and I were just discussing this, and we had this conversation this afternoon. I think in light of what I said earlier about this memo not representing, it's not a final decision. It's not me saying no to the complainant. It's me advising the board on what I think your legal parameters are. I do think that a final action as to whether or not you will take up the appeal would be appropriate in this case. Not this evening, of course, because it's not on the agenda, but certainly if that's where the board lands, then I think that needs to be a decision the board makes, in a final form that's analogous to what you might otherwise do if you're saying no to a complaint. I don't know if there's precedent for that. I'm not sure. I haven't been here long enough to know whether that's something that's done regularly. If there's a letter that comes from the president, exactly what that form looks like, but I do think that board action as to the question itself is appropriate.
Can I have either of you maybe talk a little bit more about what is the procedure if a citizen has a complaint against a member of city staff that's not a police officer? This is something that's come up previously in like other appeals, and I feel like the city manager has not been able to give me any sort of answer. There is a process, like if I have a problem with Carla, not that I would, like what does a citizen do in that situation? Yeah.
So, respectfully, truly, I want to be cognizant of, again, what this board's role is and the kind of the discussion that we're engaging in. I understand the spirit of your question and totally respect where you're coming from, and I'm happy to have this discussion. I do think that in this public meeting setting, we're going a little bit out of bounds in terms of what the board's role is. The process is, not something that we came prepared to discuss, I will say that, but I think offline, I'm happy to field an email or a call, we
Okay.
can discuss, and I can help you.
Yeah, because this has come up in other appeals and things like that, and it seems like there's not a clear process for the community, which then ends up with us as a board getting complaints or appeals that don't really apply to us. So I think if there was a policy and procedure that needs to be made clear to the public so that we stop fielding these complaints that aren't within our.
So I will say this just generally. There are other formal processes, the human rights ordinance being one of those sort of paradigms under which a resident can file a complaint against, a member of city staff, theoretically. In general, sort of general complaints about city staff, I don't think there's a mechanism that's formalized in the way that the citizen complaint against a sworn officer or something under the human rights ordinance would be. I can say that
Okay.
with clarity.
Yeah, I think, again, apparently I'm jumping off of a lot of things that Matt said tonight, so thank you for your patience. But the CPRB, right, clearly lays out allegations or concerns or complaints against sworn officers. So we have that parameter neatly here. I will say, other things can come in through other mechanisms, right? We can have people contact me or HR through various mechanisms. There's nothing necessarily formalized. Don't want to give advice or counsel or guidance to anyone here through this meeting and through this mechanism, but it might be something that, Matt and I may be able to more fully address in a different context. And Carla can speak to the kinds of, through as in her role and under the HRO, how those can come in as well.
You made reference, I think, Michelle, to something being more appropriate for an administrative review hearing. Can you tell us a little bit more? I'm not familiar with administrative review hearings. What do they cover and how would they be applied?
So I'm going to invite the city attorney to stop me at any point if I'm wrong. But generally speaking, when people sometimes go before administrative bodies, an example would be an administrative body here at the city, parking ticket, something like that, and there's a hearing and they don't like the final determination, they have the ability to file for a review at the Circuit Court of Champaign County. So in that level, then the circuit court actually becomes like the appeals court for that. And I think that kind of leads into what Matt was talking about. A final decision here might be something that if somebody wanted to pursue that would be necessary for the circuit court to say, oh, okay, now this is something I'm looking at. So that's a process that would occur across the street. I would never presume to suggest to, anyone that they do or don't do that, and I would never want to imply that I'm the right person or they should take guidance from me on how to do that. But that is generally been my experience.
And it was used, you used that example if someone objected to the way a parking ticket was given out. That would be one kind of,
A parking ticket, a police duty-related pension application that's denied if the applicant believes that, the award was incorrect. They can file for administrative review from that administrative body, the pension board. Same thing with, a workers' comp decision. There's any number of those sort of administrative, what I'll call quasi-judicial adjudicative processes where there's a board or a commission that functions kind of like a court, conducting hearings. There's a process for redressing a complaint or a particular type of issue. And ultimately, if there is an exhaustion of those administrative remedies, then the circuit court in whatever jurisdiction could agree to take up the case and review it. Like Michelle said, that is no way a suggestion as to what any complainant in particular should be doing, or the merits of any potential case. But particularly when there's a question of law, that an administrative board is not able to hear and decide, that is often an avenue that a litigant would take.
okay. Seems like that has broad implications. I mean, unless I'm not thinking of it correctly, that if someone thought that they were given a ticket inappropriately, a traffic ticket that was not accurate, or was accused of going through a stop sign, or perhaps
So if you're
that he used
bored,
social media incorrectly, yeah?
so if you're bored
Yeah.
and you can peruse the city ordinance, or the city code of ordinances, and there is a section about how you appeal parking tickets
Oh,
and
okay.
how you have those hearings. So we do have somebody who comes in and is a parking enforcement hearing officer, and then if they're not happy with the determination, that's the mechanism they would explore.
Okay. But I was just trying to think if that process that would apply to either of the cases we were talking about right now, or some of the others that have come before us. But, okay, so sort of thinking out loud.
I was just going to add that on the Human Relations Commission side, they have a mechanism inside of the OHR, the Human Rights Ordinance, that if there is a complaint of discrimination against an employee of the city, then that complaint would go directly to the Human Relations Board. And they will do the investigation, and they would make the determinations, and then the same thing that Ms. Brooks had said would happen if they wanted, if they didn't like that, then we have a hearing review, and we go through that informal process, and then we go to a formal public hearing.
Anyone else have any other questions? I think going forward, as to both issues, this board needs to review the things we've been sent, and we'll put them on the agenda for a later meeting. And we may invite you back. We'll obviously work with your schedules. I know this was last minute or short, so perhaps it can be in a meeting or two. I think that's all. Thank you both for your time and coming this
Yeah.
evening. We appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you all very much.
Just wanted to speak for a moment about the question about how the information is shared to the public. From my experience, there's usually sometimes there are two different ways it goes. One is to all the city employees and the board and commission members, and then another document that would be a public news release.
Oh, okay.
In a situation with the police, I believe most of the time those may be combined. So as far as a listserv, I don't believe there is a listserv. That might be a question that the board may want to ask the department to consider.
Sure. Thanks, Tom. Yeah, I guess I think I'm seeing them because I'm on this board, but I know they sometimes will post the press releases on Facebook, and I
Yeah.
think it's the exact same.
I think they're pretty good
information.
about posting any crime-related
Yeah.
ones, because I follow the Facebook page. There obviously is like usually a delay. We get them pretty early and usually like by the next day.
Yeah, it's on.
They've been posted, so.
I was just going to concur with you, is that our citizens can, or our residents, they can follow the city's Facebook page and get all the information that's sent out
Okay.
that way. Yeah, they can follow. They can't friend, but they don't want them to friend it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's-
you
it's
just
not a-
follow it.
They want them to follow it, and they can do that.
Okay. Let's move on to F2, meeting frequency. I discussed this with Carla before, and this was mainly about moving, we're required to meet every quarter. The statute, or the ordinance states that. There's some discussion about potentially moving this to once a month in order, the idea being we can shorten the meetings or make them run a little faster, and we can also deal with things a little quicker. This might be a prime example as to dealing with this Facebook post issue. We're now, 2 months after it occurred, I think, and it's been taken up by council. I don't think that's necessarily always going to be the case, but this particular issue seemed to be more high-level review. Anyway, I don't know when we didn't really discuss, Carl, I think when we would start doing this. We do already have our November meeting.
Well, we were going to broach the subject,
Yeah.
but we weren't going to take any action.
Right.
And
Yeah, that we're
but
not,
to have something ready for you for the November meeting, if the board was interested in doing either every other month or every month, so that, for the reasons that the interim chair has spoken about, so that we can be agile and address issues as they come up. And also, it would help with the time frame, because sometimes our meetings are on this month, and then 2 months later, they're this month, but then you have a 5-month gap.
right.
And it would keep us more in tune with what's going on and being able to address those things in a timely fashion.
Yeah, I certainly would support that. I mean, just this issue that I thought we were going to talk about that we couldn't talk about tonight. I'm thinking, we can't really wait till November to make a determination. I mean, just in terms of the time period that we are required to make a determination, I think that would be pushing, I mean, I have to look that up, but, it was filed in June, or, well, I don't know, I guess August, but,
That may be a conversation that the chair can have with the attorneys on what the board can do before November.
right.
It's
Right.
possible.
I mean, just
First,
as an
if there's
example, but
anything.
certainly this kind of
Sure.
thing has happened before, where it seemed like, gee whiz, we're really dragging this out longer than it probably should be to be good. And it would give us some more time to talk about some other things that we keep trying to move ahead
Forward.
on.
Yeah, I think, in the last few years, we've been doing just a lot of appellate reviews, and so we've scheduled meetings that weren't just quarterly meetings or monthly meetings. It was review meetings, and we did
Yeah.
a lot of those, and there were a lot of hours. So I don't want to, I think we've been doing the work of the board, but now that it seems like we're not going to, hopefully, we don't see huge influxes of appeals coming in. But, yeah, I think now is kind of the time maybe to discuss that. Every month, I mean, I think maybe during the academic year, that's probably easier for people. Maybe we can decide some things over the summer. Again, with now 3 of us on the board, maybe it's easier, maybe it's harder, I don't know.
Yeah.
If there were more people, we would have a quorum, I think, easier, but that's also an issue, I guess, is that if we're down 2, then we don't have a meeting.
Right.
Does Wednesday work? Wednesday seemed to work mostly
10
for
hour.
everybody.
Yeah. I mean, whether it's monthly or every other month, I mean,
Yeah, and I mean, I guess a
just more
doodle poll is something that can really solve
Yeah,
these
okay.
questions, but, I guess,
I don't know if we have enough to discuss to like warrant every month. But, I mean,
Sure.
like, if we can collectively think that's what's needed, that's fine, but.
I agree with you, Ashley. I'm kind of hesitant to do it every month. One, because I think, I mean, just given the two things we have right here on our plate, to take enough time to review that in a month, I don't know if everyone individually has that amount of time to do it. So I think maybe it'd be a good idea to start every other. That would be 6 meetings.
I was going to speak to Ashley. There is a lot of work to be done. It's just that we haven't been able to get to it. And the monthly meetings would allow us to get to that work. There's a lot of things that the board is required to do per ordinance, but we haven't been able to do them. And so we could get that work started and done, and advance the work of the CPRB, if we were able to meet more often, because I think our hindrance was the myriad of appeal hearings, which we have already done. There are some more questions about 2 of them that the board could be taking up, and then we also have the annual reports and things that we need to get caught up. So I believe the work is there, and if we could meet, it would get done quicker. But I'm amenable to what the board wants to do.
Right, and what's realistic, because we don't want to set up something, an unrealistic expectation and have, you know, people not able to come, because that's not good either, so.
You know, I would like to hear what Katrina's availability would be as well, so.
Yeah, right.
A doodle poll was suggested, and before any decision would be made, it would have to be a new agenda item at the November meeting.
Right.
But maybe you'd like to discuss what questions you would like on the doodle poll.
Well, I mean, I was thinking more of dates, but I mean, assuming we come to a consensus on, do we want to do monthly or do we want to do every other month?
Last time, we put out, I think it was 4 different calendars that the board could choose from. So we could do that again. And then that would give you options to think about.
That might have been the other committee, but a similar type of,
This one?
was it?
It was
Date
this
and time? Okay.
Okay.
I mean, I guess we can also, we don't have to do every month. Maybe we can, maybe we can, I'm kind of on just thinking of semesters, I guess. Like, we can maybe do more before the end of the year, and then, you know, maybe there's a larger gap from, on the holidays, and then we pick back up in January.
Totally.
Those months may be more, there may be more availability, just because there's less of a interference with schedule of people maybe going out of town or something like that. And then maybe over the summer, we can stretch, maybe there's some more gaps between. I'm just kind of spitballing here,
We can
but,
take all of those into consideration and come up with different calendars for you to think about.
right.
Yeah,
Does 5:30 tend to work for everybody still?
it's certainly
Maybe
fine.
later at all?
Yeah, I mean, I
I think that works more, I'd rather be here earlier than later.
Yeah,
Same.
yeah,
And if if the meetings are gonna be ideally shorter, then that's
even better.
then we're out of here earlier, which is fine by me. But I think anything earlier is gonna be, that would just be tough for us or any future
Right.
members to really make. Asking to hit 5 o'clock is
Yeah,
gonna
no,
be.
I wouldn't want to do it any
Yeah.
earlier, but didn't know if later worked better for anybody.
We'll make several different scenarios, and then you guys can think about those, look at those and decide.
Okay, and we can maybe even have an open-ended, we're so few in number that, I mean, because I was just jotting down the idea that you had, Tony, that maybe we meet more in the fall and spring unless,
Yeah.
so like, maybe September, October, November, January, February, March, April, and then not again till, you know,
Maybe
take off
a
July,
late May
August or
yeah,
something.
or June, yeah.
That kind of thing. Because certainly if we had more meetings scheduled, there's nothing to say that we, come up against a monthly meeting and realize, you know what? We don't have enough new material to talk about next month, and we agree to cancel it, with adequate, we decide. But if everyone has the date protected on their calendar at least, then it gives us the option to meet more often to move things ahead. But anyway, yeah, you can come up with scenarios, but I can imagine that maybe, we're looking and thinking, oh, I would just tweak this ever so much, this would be, and then
Get real
maybe,
nitpicky
if
on
that's, there is just the four of us,
Yeah,
so it's not
I'm
like.
required to be here whenever you are, so it's okay.
Okay, but it'll give us
But
something
yeah, I think
to
some
think about.
scenarios would be
We're okay.
Yeah,
more than.
We'll give
Okay.
you some scenarios.
but we won't, you're saying
We
you
can't
won't,
decide this until November.
you won't send out a doodle poll until November? Or you're saying you could send out a doodle poll now and then we could discuss the results of it in November? I wasn't sure when you said we can start officially discussing it.
We can share the results of the doodle poll, and then it would become an agenda item in the meeting in November.
Oh, gotcha, okay,
So we wouldn't officially vote on the schedule until November.
gotcha,
But we
okay.
can discuss it doodling beforehand.
You can do the doodle poll.
Right.
Okay,
We'll tell you what,
Do the doodle?
What the
do the
results were.
doodle.
okay,
Do the doodle.
then
okay,
we'll tell you what the results were,
okay,
and then at the meeting, you vote on which one you want to go with.
Right.
yeah, gotcha, perfect, thank you.
And we'll make that an agenda item in November.
Right. Okay. Any other discussion on F2? All right. Let's go to G, the officer report. Carla?
Okay. That's all. There was the one complaint that was submitted during the quarter, and due to the nature of the complaint, it was referred to City's Legal Division for review, and I'll refer back to the discussion that happened on the new business section of this meeting of what they shared with you. I don't have to reiterate what they said, that, the advice was it wasn't referred a proper venue, so you guys will take that on at a later date. Mr. Allegretti and I, we met with the mayor and have been working to complete appeal write-ups and the annual report. And the annual report, that draft is in the portal, and each member needs to contribute input and comments by mid-November so that we can get that report completed.
Maybe you can point us to where the current, because I know you pointed us to it a while back, and it was still very much being put together at that point, but,
In the portal, if
Yeah.
you go under, I believe it's documents, CPRB documents, and then there's a file that says, I think it says, final one I'm going to use, or annual report,
Annual
or
report.
this was an annual report, yeah. I believe it's notated that this is the one to use.
okay,
And within that file, you should find the template for the annual report. It's almost written.
okay,
It's it's not done, but there's things in there, but a lot of work needs to happen. And I need to get some information from you guys. The input needs to happen in that. And then I'll work with the chair by then, I'm hoping,
okay.
to try to get that finalized.
So you would like our input to it before November 30th, or? yeah,
Before
by-
mid-November, because we want to have that input before the meeting.
Gotcha, okay,
And then we can work on it, because we have scheduled weekly meetings. That was something that I had did with the previous chair, and so Mr. Allegretti and I are meeting on Friday afternoons. I was gone, so, but I let him know before I left that I would be gone. And so we're trying to meet via Zoom or something like that, so that we can talk about, things that are going to be on the agenda, things that need to get completed, and where we are.
great, okay.
The office responded to 5 Freedom of Information Act requests for complaint information. We're starting to see a lot of those, and what I'm trying to do is get everything redacted now, so that it doesn't become a chore of trying to redact all of those documents, because a FOIA can be up to 150 pages. I've had one that was almost 1,500. So I'm trying to do that in order so that it doesn't become a time-consuming task, because they only give us 5 days to get it done. And so when that happens, everything drops, and I must
Right.
focus on those. So we're trying to make that a process easier for us, so that most of it should already be redacted, that we can just pull documents and pull them together and then put the packet together and send it forward.
Carla, are those from individuals or organizations or press, or can you comment on that? I don't know if you can under the,
We get requests from all sources.
oh, okay.
I would say all of the above.
Oh, okay.
The SUNA annual meeting, I had talked about that at our last meeting. It was going to happen 2 days after, or a week after our last meeting, but it went really well. We talked to attendees about both boards, the CPRB and the Human Relations Commission. We have not received any applications for the CPRB. We did receive an application for the HRC, and that person has been on the board for about 2 meetings. So we've been trying very hard to recruit, and anytime we have an opportunity to go out, we go out and we recruit. We participated, the office participated in the City of Urbana's Juneteenth celebration, which included an educational program, raising of the flag ceremony, and a cookout on the lawn, and all of the events were well attended. And we provided a listing of activities, Juneteenth activities that were going on around the city and the county, and I was able to go to a couple of those and support those, and that was a really educational experience to learn from the different organizations what they were presenting, and ours was well attended, and we had a lot of positive comments about the education component that we provided, and everybody loved the food too. The OHRE participated in recruitment opportunities at the Urbana Park District's Juneteenth celebration on June 16th. I did have interest in that for the boards at that event, and someone reached out to me, and I sent them the application, but due to they were concerned about work conflicts, that they never followed through. We also participated in the Jetty Roads Day celebration in King Park on June 22nd. I don't know if did we receive any? I know we engaged with a lot of people there, but we didn't get any applications. We completed the neighborhood nights on July 3rd, July 10th, and July 24th. And Tom, he did those nights for us where he staffed a table, I believe, and talked to the community members that came in and pushed, recruitment for the 2 boards that we staff. We did Market on the Square. We did that June 29th, and I believe, Ms. Patton, you joined me on that one. We talked to a lot of community members. She's really good at it.
Like talking
Talking to people. We also did the August 3rd and the September 7th Market on the Square. The community was encouraged to join both boards.
We have outline what each board does and what's their responsibilities, or is it kind of just a general?
No, we have brochures for both. One of the tasks that I need to do is to update the brochure for the CPRB, because we have to get a chair, and we have to get the chair's information, and then we also need to add more information from where the board is currently. And then we also participated in the Pride Parade on September 21st. And that is the end of my presentation.
Great, thank you, Carla. Does anyone have any questions?
As you said, I was with you on June 29th. I was with you at the annual meeting at SUNA too, but the market at the square in particular, I felt like there was an awful lot of interest, people who stopped and were very interested in both the Human Relations and CPRB Board, and took applications, and talked a long time, not just, mindlessly picking things up, but it doesn't sound like anything came of the June 29th meeting in terms of applications submitted or further interest indicated. You would probably know that.
I know that I reached out to, I think, 2 additional people after the day that you joined, because that was when we had talked to a lot of people.
Yeah.
And they said, would you please email me? So I did email them, I gave them more information, and I also sent them the electronic version of the application. But no one sent it back.
And sometimes it takes a while, or maybe, yeah. Okay. Well, thanks.
But we keep trying.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it's a hard.
Okay, I think, does anyone have any other comments on G?
No, except that you talked about, you two talking about the agenda. What would be, when I had sent, I think I'd sent Tom an email saying, Tom, when would is the agenda coming out? Because I wanted to make sure that the topic of the complaint that we referred to with the attorney and Ms. Brooks was on the agenda, because I just wanted to know where we're going from here. And so then because had it not been on the agenda, I was going to ask, could we please put it on? And then the agenda came out and there was this language, and I said, oh, good, that's on it. So what could I have done to make that clearer, or to, maybe I should have said, I'm really hoping we can address this. Should I have sent that? I'm not sure.
I think you can just ask to have it put on, and Carla will do that. Or you can email me.
The process has been that you would tell the chair, and the chair would.
Yeah.
And then we send it out to the chair for approval prior to posting it.
I looked at it, and I had the same thing that you said, Peggy. I was under the impression that the city attorney was coming to talk about the complaint. I assumed our request from the police to talk about social media they weren't going to come. I knew there was a lot of discussion outside of this board, and so I thought that's what was happening. But so yeah, that's just contact me, and then I can contact Carla.
Right.
Or I think if you put me and Carla in an email, that doesn't violate the Open Meetings Act, so that's fine.
Don't add Ashley
Right, just don't add anybody
No.
else.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
or Katrina. When you add them, then it becomes a.
right.
Yeah, then it's an
One and
issue.
two.
Is there a required time frame to add things? Like, can we not do it within so many days?
Yes.
I can't remember what it is. I should know that. But.
For this Wednesday at 5:30, we have to have everything done by 5:30 on Monday.
Yeah.
That's posted.
That's
Right,
not
posted.
posting, yeah, right.
The only difference would be if there was something we said in advance to you that we're sending this a little bit later to you, but you would know exactly what that would be.
Yeah. And maybe, I don't know if it's possible to have maybe a little more detail on the agenda, because I think that would have been right away cleared up, like, oh, no, that's not what I think it is. And I would have immediately responded, then and there. But I don't know if that's possible. I mean, if that had just said about social media, then it would have been clear to at least two of us.
Right, I should have clarified that or asked about that on the
Well,
email. so
anyway,
that-
just
yeah.
so we're all on the same
Yeah.
page, anyway, whoever does that. Thank you.
Okay. Let's move to H then. As we've previously stated, the board has 3 vacancies. If there's anyone watching, we would love to have you on the board. You can apply. I believe it's online. Contact any of us on the board. I believe our email contacts are on the website as well. We can point you in the right direction if you're unsure. The next meeting is scheduled Wednesday, November 20th. I believe this is a week early because of Thanksgiving. Same time, same place, but a week early. Okay. Well, I think at this point, we can take a motion for adjournment, unless there is something else.
Well,
Peggy, go ahead.
Can you, how do we determine we're going to resolve this, the nature of the open-ended complaint that we need to take action on? When,
So well, we'll set the agenda for that meeting. I think, just in thinking, since hearing what the city attorney and labor relations had to say, I think maybe an executive session might be appropriate so that we can discuss this and the contents and then decide what to do. Yeah, I think a closed meeting at the next
Closed
one, at
session.
least a partial one,
Closed
okay.
session?
a closed session, to decide what we want to do about that particular complaint.
And even though it says in the ordinance that it says every reasonable effort shall be made to resolve the complaint within 45 working days.
I think just given the nature of the complaint, its
Okay.
unusual nature, kind of,
think-
I don't even know, I mean, and again, I think we can discuss this in the closed session, but whether or not some of those things apply may be
Okay,
discussed, so,
okay.
Yeah.
yeah.
That's totally cool
That-
how we're doing it this way. Okay.
Yeah, I think, I think so, again,
Having a discussion where you're able to talk about everything is probably the best route.
yeah, this
To
is going
take.
forward, yeah.
Questioning it now is
Yeah.
probably.
Well, I
more
didn't know if you were suggesting we have an exec session before the November meeting.
No, I'm
and
sorry,
let
I
them-
meant at that
time.
at that
Yeah,
meeting, we'll
that's
have,
a-
we'll
that's
have
why
an
speed
exec
things
session.
up. Okay.
That's why I specified on the agenda, have a closed session.
Right.
Okay.
So for the next meeting, let's have reviewed the memo from from the city attorney regarding the complaint, and then we can also review the different, there was a presentation by Deputy Searles. I know there was a statement from the chief. I think those are the two main,
That was a part of the documentation that was sent to you today.
right. And then the social media policy, which was also copied to us.
Okay.
And we can put that on. I think we can discuss that more fully. We can see if we can talk about having maybe them come back if they're available. If not, maybe at a later meeting if we have further questions that maybe have been answered by these other presentations and statements.
Yeah, I'm happy to review the statements and then just let you know if I have any questions that I feel like they need to come back for.
Okay.
And then she can do the same.
Yeah.
We can always put it on the agenda, and if we want to strike it, we can do that too.
Well, by the time we're ready to put the agenda together, you may have other thoughts and may have a different, so
Right.
everything's on the table right now.
Okay.
Sounds good.
With that, I think if there's no other comments or questions, we can take a motion for adjournment.
So moved?
Second?
And we can, I think we have to do a roll call vote for this one, so.
I don't know that you need to do a recall. You can just.
Okay, we can do it by affirmation. All in favor?
Yay.
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. This meeting is adjourned. We'll see everyone on November 20th.
Thank you, Tony. Thank you.